Om. गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. We are in the Kena Upanishad, chapter 4, verse number 7, and we are on page 131. Sahapathitanamapi yatha yogam vibhajya. So we are looking at this seventh verse where the student asked the teacher, now please tell the Upanishad, and the teacher replied that, my dear, we have already told the Upanishad, and ta Upanishadam abrumeti. So now we will tell you the Upanishad with reference to the, here it is told, with regards to those who are committed to karma, those who are addicted to karma, and we began the Upanishad in the introductory part that there is this great divide between karma and jnana, and some people say that karma is necessary to know the truth, and others say the truth is self-knowing, it is self-established, and because it is one without a second principle, it doesn't need, it cannot be known by any other means. Whereas those who follow the karma path, those who follow the path of action, for them, that how can we not act, how can we not eat, how can we not wake, dream, sleep, how can we not talk, how can we not study the scriptures, their importance is on that. And last week, because as it was getting a bit heavier and heavier, the topic towards the end, I explained the gist of the whole thing, and that was that we understand knowledge as that which is gained through books. We understand knowledge as our intelligence. We understand knowledge as our convictions, concepts. That is not knowledge. When we say Paramatma or the Brahman is Satchidananda Swarup, Satchit, his existence, consciousness and bliss, or his existence, knowledge and bliss, his nature is that of knowledge. And that knowledge is uncaused. It doesn't come because you have studied scriptures. It does not come because you have done yagya homa. It does not come because you have done some pranayam, yoga, etc., etc. It doesn't come because of that. But then you also say, sir, that on one hand study the scriptures and on the other hand purify yourself. Yes. For whom is this? So you have to understand the two sides. One, we are talking about jnana, we are talking about knowledge, and Paramatma, the Brahman, is knowledge Swarup, Jnana Swarup, and that you are. For that, nothing external is required in order to know it. It is self knowing. Till you don't come to that threshold, till you don't come to be that, till then, why will you not come to be that which you are already? Why will you not be the knowledge that you are already? Why you don't be the woman which you are already and behave like a wife or a daughter or a mother? Because you are attached to something. That's why you are not being a woman or a man. Similarly, why you are not realizing that you are that Parabrahma Paramatma Swarup? Because you are attached to something. You are taking the world to be real. You are taking this body to be real. You are taking the experiences of the world to be real. You are taking the waker, dreamer, sleeper to be real. You are taking the scriptures to be real. And as long as you take this whole thing to be real, till that time you are not available to yourself as you are. And therefore, to such a person who is not available to himself as he is, which is Parabrahma Paramatma, that is the goal of the Upanishad, isn't it? Goal of the Upanishad is not to establish the world. The goal of the Upanishad is to make you realize that you are that reality. So, with this regards, here the teacher says, where are we? Upanishadam abrubheti. So now I'll tell you the Upanishad with regards to those who are addicted to karma. And then we saw the different standpoints last week, and now we are at the 131st page number 131 in the Shankar Bhashya. Sahapatithanam api yatha yogam vibhajya viniyogah syaditi chet. The ritualist may still argue, the student, the argument is being taken by Shankaracharya that the ritualist may still argue what? That that austerity and tapa, dan, karma, they are read together, that they may not have equal importance to the or status. They may have different status. For example, here he says, यथा सूक्त वाकानुमंत्रण मंत्राणाम यथा दैवतम विभागः तथा तपोदम कर्म सत्यादीनामपि ब्रह्म विद्याशेषत्वं तत् सहकारी साधनत्वं वेति कल्प्यते. So he says they may have different status. What are this? Austerity and austerity is what? Tapas. Dhamma is restraint of senses and mind. And then karma, which we have already said, and they have to be practiced along. These ritualists say that they have to be practiced along with the knowledge of Brahman. So where is knowledge of Brahman? From the Upanishads. Where is this practice of yajna, karma, tapa, dhamma and karma? That is external, isn't it? It is, you have to practice it. And why you are practicing it? Because you think this is important. That means propitiation of the sacred fire is important, tapasya, austerity is important, control of senses and control of mind is important. For whom can it be important? It can be only important for the person who feels that he is the body, who has this conviction that he is the body, For him only it will be important, no? See? So when we practice rituals and various sadhanas, yajnas and pujas, etc., uh, uh, similar the people, the sadhakas, they are seen to be practicing different things. When you are doing puja, yeah, you have to make sure that you are clean, you have to make sure you are wearing fresh clothes, you have to make sure that you have taken bath, you make sure that the right hand is used for everything, the left hand is not used in between puja. If you have touched something, then you have to wash your hands and again start all over again. And for every action in the puja there is appropriate mantra, for every god there is an appropriate mantra, for every activity during the entire process of the yajna or the puja there are certain mantras that have to be uttered and or chanted, invoking different gods and different activities. And this way uh, uh, and therefore different deities are invoked by different yajnas for different benefits. Indra is invoked for rain, Surya Bhagwan is invoked for for the brightness of our intellect, and so on. Gayatri is invoked for intelligence, Lakshmi is invoked for wealth, etc., etc. There is a result. Whenever you do any karma, there is a result. When you are pursuing the knowledge, okay, let's continue with this, and then now that the thought has come, I'll say it, but it will come afterwards. We'll have to talk about it. And that is, when we are talking about the truth, when we are talking about the Parabrahma Paramatma, is it a result? Is it a result which has been gained? Is it a phala? Phala is result, isn't it? So, like karma is done, you get karma phala. So, is this knowledge which you are pursuing, which is Parabrahma Paramatma, the reality, is it a result which you are going to get? How can it be result? Because you are already that. Huh? So, abiding, being the self is not a result of thinking, of Upanishads, of any sadhana, or any rituals, or any jap, or any of any activity that you may get involved and call it sattvic activity. Every activity must have a result. And Paramatma or the Atma, it is not a result because it is already. It is a gainless gain. So you are not getting rain and you do the puja of Indra Bhagwan, you will get rain. You don't have money, you pray to Lakshmi, she will give you money. So you did not have and you invoked and you got. Is it like this that you invoke the Paramatma, the Atma, and you will get Atma? So will you get Atma by studying the Upanishad? See, this is the conundrum that we are talking about here. See, karma is practiced, tapasya is practiced, what you call dama, shama, dama is practiced where? Only where there is duality. And knowledge about what? Knowledge, no, oh, this mantra that we just chanted, it is from the Upanishad, so it is a Upanishadic mantra, so it is knowledge. No, mantra is not knowledge. What mantra is indicating is the knowledge. What mantra is indicating is the knowledge. And what is it indicating? What is knowledge indicating? When we use the word gyan, when we use the word knowledge in English, what is it indicating? It is indicating the unifying principle. We are not mentioning the knowledge at the intellectual level. So, yes, I am using the word gyan, but where is your attention? Is your attention, is your understanding about the word gyan with reference to the thought knowledge, or the moment you hear the word gyan, your attention, your awareness is about the self that you are? See? So all practices are in duality, and in unity or in the unifying principle or in Atma, there is no activity possible, because there is no duality from its point of view. See, this is the issue that is being discussed by Adi Shankaracharya here. And he says similarly, with regards to the Brahma Vidya also, the tapa, dhamma, and karma, these various accessories can be talked about. But the main topic of the Upanishad is the knowledge of Brahman, not of karma, not of tapasya, not of shama, not of dhamma, not of uparama, not of shraddha, not of titiksha, nothing. The only theme of every Upanishad is Brahma Vidya. We saw that in the story also, we saw in the preceding two chapters, the dialogue between the student and the teacher also we saw. In the second verse itself, the teacher told him, the eye of the eye, the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind, the pranas of the prana. This you have to come to know, and we don't know how to communicate it. This is the best way I can do it. It is your problem now. If the ball is in your court, you find it. And he gives a few more pointers, and eventually the student comes to know. See? So through the knowledge of Brahman, the knowledge of Brahman is the main point. And the other things like tapa, dhamma, karma, etc. can they also be practiced simultaneously? So for whom is this being told? Those who are addicted to karma. So here it says that the Vedas and the Vedangas. Here he says what? Vedanam tada anganam. Here only, no? Vedanam tada anganam cha artha prakashakatvena karmatma jnana upayatvam iti evam ह्ययं विभागो युज्यते अर्थसंबंधोपपत्ति सामर्थ्यादिति चेत. So here he says that Ved and the Vedangas, meaning the sub Upavedas. Upavedas are 6 in number: astrology and etymology and Ayurved, Dhanurved, and 6 of them are there. Let's see. And these are the Upavedas, that is the Vedanga and their Anga. They are also studied by Brahmanas. They are also studied by those who consider themselves a seeker. But why do we study the Vedas, meaning the Upanishads, and why do we study the Vedangas, which is the other 6 Upavedas? Why do we? Is it to establish creation? No. So we read the Vedas, we read the Vedangas, study the Vedangas only to establish the unifying principle, the Parabrahma Paramatma, the Brahma Vidya. the knowledge of Brahman, only to establish that, not to establish the astrology, the Ayurveda in its own right. No, they are angas. When you are talking about your various parts of your body, you know that it is part of the body, isn't it? When I'm talking about my hand, or when I'm talking about a disease, when I'm talking about my health, it is about this one body only. When I'm talking about any organ of my body, I'm talking about the whole body. Because without the body, that part cannot exist independently. Understand this. A wave cannot exist without the whole. The whole is the ocean. The whole is the waters. From water's point of view, there is no wave. But can wave exist without waters? No. Similarly, can Vedangas exist without the Vedas? No. Without the Parabrahma Paramatma? No. Can the Upanishads exist without Parabrahma Paramatma? No. So, the teacher, the Adi Shankaracharya, in his Bhashya, is bringing our attention to this point, that the main theme is the knowledge of Brahman, even though the other things, and these are things, what he is writing here is what is observed in his time and even today, because there are different people, every person has a different viewpoint about everything. So how do you resolve all this? And therefore he says that he says here that artha sambandhopapatti samarthya diti chet. So he says in this manner to consider that to consider tapa, dhamma and karma as integral and essential parts of Brahman will be the right approach, rather than take them as a separate and then think that these, only by these we can reach that. No. If we take the wave to be an integral part of the total water, then it is easy, then it has some meaning. But if you say, no, I am not water, I have to come to realize water, what are you doing? What is your premise? Your premise is, the wave's premise is that I am other than water and I have to become one with water, isn't it? So same way, because of your over deep identification with this body, which has concretized an individuality, and you are so set in this individuality that you can't even imagine the infinity. Because yes, infinity cannot be imagined, no doubt, but you can't even accept that you are that Atma, that you are that reality in which is the substratum of this body, of this mind, of these faculties, of these practices, of the Vedas, of the scriptures, of the Vedangas, of everything in this universe. See? So if I keep myself separate and don't see that Parabrahman, Paramatma, and keep that Parabrahma, Paramatma as separate from the world that I am living in, will realization be possible? Realization, if I use the word full realization, full realization is recognizing that Parabrahma, Paramatma to be the unifying principle within yourself, as yourself. I shouldn't use within yourself. that this Atma is the Parabrahma Paramatma on one hand, and that Parabrahma Paramatma alone is the entire world. Then your equation is complete with no loose threads hanging around. Otherwise, what happens? One loose thread you pull, the whole sweater becomes undone, isn't it? So, if I only come to know Parabrahma Paramatma and I have not resolved where this creation came from, then the thread is still loose. So, I have to recognize Parabrahma Paramatma as a unifying, one without a second uh, uh, principle, and that principle alone is the entire creation, is the entire creation of names and forms too, because names and forms are only in the creation, isn't it? Then I have not left any any door for the mind and intellect, for the individuality to escape. Now it is a wholesome experience without any error. Otherwise, it's very nice to hear Parabrahma Paramatma, that I am essentially the Brahman, I am essentially the Atma, and Atma is none other than Brahman. We can keep repeating it, keep repeating it. So, from this point, till here, what we have uh, uh, understood, that knowledge is the notion of unity. Why notion? Because we are thinking about it. We are thinking about that which is beyond thinking. So knowledge is the notion of unity, and karma is the notion of duality. Get this deep into your system. Then next, what you call, he continues. He says, "Na ayuktehe, na hyayam vibhago ghatanam pranchati, nahi sarva kriya karaka phala bheda buddhi tiraskarinya brahma vidyayaha sheshapeksha सहकारी साधन संबंधो वा युज्यते." He says, where are we? युज्यते सर्व विषय व्यावृत्त प्रत्यगात्म विषय निष्ठत्वाच्च ब्रह्म विद्यायाः तत्फलस्य च निश्रेयस्य. He says, Adi Shankaracharya, see, I have already refuted that we need karma in order to know the truth. I have already said that. So now what Shankaracharya says here is that he says that those who are ritualists, those who are karma kandis, those who say without doing you cannot achieve, he refutes them, and he does not he say what we told you before, that the Vedas, Vedangas are accessories of Brahman, accessories of the reality. This is how the ritualists take the standpoint. Now, can you say waves are the accessories of the water? The heat and light is the accessory of the sun, or is it the nature of the sun? And from sun's point of view, is there any heat? No. Is there any light? No. Is there any day? No. Is there any night? No. From water's point of view, is there any wave? No. So from the Parabrahma Paramatma point of view, there is only one. And what is that one? That also he cannot say. What is that one? We are saying it. It's one. He doesn't say himself, I alone am. He doesn't say that. So Shankaracharya is refuting that. No, you cannot take this tapa, dhamma and karma as accessories to Brahman. That Brahman alone is expressing through that. These are very subtle points which keep us in the loop of relativity. What is that? So we have to understand this karma siddhanta, that it has its limitations. From the absolute point of view, only absolute is. Nothing else can stick to it, because from its point there is nothing else other than it. So Adi Shankaracharya says that knowledge of Brahman is the knowledge of unity, where all notions of duality have been discarded, have been nullified, have been annihilated, have been dissolved, melted away. Isn't it? That is its disposition. That is how it is. And karma, as we said before, it can be done only in duality. And Brahman is that where there is no duality. So where is the question? How can you say karma sticks to Brahman, that karma is a part of Brahman? It is not. It cannot, it is not possible only. And for doing karma, for performing karma, there has to be a subject, there has to be an object, there has to be a instrument of knowledge. Whether you do the karma at manasa level, vacha level, kaya level, at the mind level, at the speech level, or at the body level, but there will be always a thinker, thought, object to be thought and thinking process. There will be a speaker, spoken to and speaking. There will be a doer, done and doing. So there will be always these three, the triputi. But in the Parabrahma Paramatma, in Brahman, the triputi, the triad is absent. So how can you say, just like from sun's point of view, there is absence of heat and light, there is absence of day and night. He does not even acknowledge it. Sunrise and sunset is absent in the sun. That the sun is going up and the sun is going down in the evening, that is karma, movement. You ask the sun, he says, I'm stuck in one place, man, I'm not going anywhere. I don't know what you're talking about. The Brahman also is one. He does not, it is that. And when we understand Brahman as the unifying principle, then there is no question of any duality. There is no question of notion of duality. There is no question of karma. There is no question of tapa, dhamma, control of senses, etc. From the absolute standpoint we are talking about. Is seeker seeking from absolute standpoint? I'm asking, is a seeker seeking from absolute standpoint? No. He's seeking from duality. He's thinking, he's performing, he's listening, he's having doubts. Why? He has considered himself to be the body. He has a notion that he is not Brahman, therefore he is seeking Brahman. Duality, isn't it? So we are not talking about the process, we are talking about the ultimate Brahman. And when we the knowledge, the notion of duality, the notion of tapas, dhamma, and etc., they have been all rejected. Then alone Brahman reveals itself. Till you are involved in doing something, till you are involved in Shravana, Brahman is far away. Till you are involved in Manana, Brahman is far away. It will not reveal. Till you are involved in Nididhyasana, Nididhyasana is still an active contemplation. You are contemplating, I am that. You are contemplating, I am nothing and everything at the same time. You are contemplating, I am. The mind is still active. So, knowledge of Brahman, when we talk about knowledge of Brahman, keep thinking subjectively. Your essential nature is Brahman. Your essential nature is Atma. Brahman at the totality, Atma at the individual level. It presupposes rejection of all activity. It presupposes rejection of all attachment with the worldly objects. And it presupposes independence from all doings and not doings. Remember, Janatam, avijanatam, that reality is beyond the known and the unknown. It was told no before in the second chapter. So, knowledge of Brahman is concerning what? Is it concerning the body? Is it concerning the breath? Is it concerning the mind? Is it concerning the intellect? Is it concerning the samadhi? No, these are all parts of the world. We have already told knowledge of Brahman has got nothing to do with the world. It has already rejected it all. From its point of view, from the absolute point of view, nothing in this world ever is. Only it is. So then when we, as a seeker, then when we are talking, are we talking about someone? Are we talking about something? Are we talking about an experience of Brahman? Knowledge of Brahman concerns with the inner self. What is inner self? That which is invigorating the entire equipment. What is that? What is that? That was mentioned in the second verse of the first chapter. The eye of the eye, the mind of the mind, the prana of the pranas. Because there is no definite word you can say for it. And therefore, and when and do you need language to be the life that is throbbing? Is life because of thinking, or thinking is because of life? This conclusion we must come to. This must be resolved within us. And when our attention, when everything has been rejected, all doing has been rejected at the kaya level, at the vacha level, at the manasa level. Manasa level is thinking. Even I am is also thinking. Aham Brahmasmi is also thinking. When it has completely been rejected, and it will be and you cannot say now I reject it. No, it must get rejected. So what we are doing here, we are refining. We are negotiating through the traffic of the bodily acts. We are rejected. We came to the speech. We rejected. We came to the mind. In the mind, through the traffic of thoughts we rejected, we came to Aham Brahmasmi. Now we realize, Arey, Aham Brahmasmi is also another traffic only. It sounds good, it sounds very dear, but it is keeping me in the loop of relativity. What it is indicating, I must contemplate on. And what is it talking to about? What is it? What is this Brahman? Hey, I am only Brahman because I know that this thought is coming and going. And it requires only once. Once we are available to ourselves, or once the Brahman, the Atma reveals itself, then everything is over. Then world cannot have a sway over us. Moksham इच्छन् सदा कर्म त्यजेद एव ससाधनम त्यजतैव हि तत् ज्ञेयं त्यक्तुः प्रत्यक्परं पदम् तस्मात् कर्मणा सहकारित्वं कर्मशेषापेक्षा वा न ज्ञानस्योपपद्यते ततः असद एव सूक्तवाकानुमन्त्रण मंत्रणवत् यथा योगं विभाग इति तस्माद् अवधारणार्थ तथा एव प्रश्न प्रतिवचनस्योपपद्यते एतावत् एवेयम् उपनिषद् उक्तानि अनिरपेक्षा अमृतत्वाय. Adi Shankaracharya quotes the authority of another scripture, and he says that moksham icchan sada karma tyajedeva sasadhanam, that the one who desires moksham icchan sada, the one who is always desiring moksha, karma tyajed eva sasadhanam, he gives up, he rejects what? He rejects karma tyajed eva. He gives up all karma. Sadhana is karma, remember. Sadhana is karma. And where do you do sadhana? Kaya, vacha and manasa. So he gives up. Tyage naike amritatva manashuhu. Moksha is possible only when we have given up, rejected. न कर्मणा न प्रजया धनेन त्यागे नैके अमृतत्वमानशुः. न कर्मणा, we have to give up the karma. न प्रजया, we have the desire to do something, the desire for progeny. न dhanena, and the third is desire for wealth, spiritual or physical. Same thing is told in another way. Putreshna, Lokeshna and what is that? Putreshna, Lokeshna and the third? Vitteshna. 3. Vitteshna is...
Yaseshna, you can go on.
Yes, you can go on. True. There is no end to it, those eshanas. So, the putreshana, desire for a child, vitteshana, desire for wealth, lokeshana, desire for name and fame, that I have to do something, I have to leave a name behind. So we have to reject all this. Only then Amritattvam is possible. Amritattvam here means moksha. So if we are desiring the self, we are desiring self realization, we are desiring to abide in the self that I am already. We have to understand this, that from the self's point of view, no karma is possible, no desires can be have any validity. So we must come to that point. Either you have two choices: either you accept yourself that you are none other than the divinity, and be that. How do you do that? Who is saying? Paramatma is saying. Who is talking? Paramatma is talking. So all this expression that is taking place, you take the position of the eternal witness and let everything be. With this knowledge that all this that is taking place is its expression alone. It is alone it. I'll make one correction here, and that is, when I'm saying these words, your attention might go to, oh, he is seeing, he is hearing, he is touching. Leave that aside. If you think of the eyes, then you are become a seer. If you think of the ears, you have become a listener. Again, you are creating duality, creating multiplicity. You be that and let everything go on or not go on, it's not your concern. We'll talk about this again in the next verse. Yes. So here he says that the person who can relinquish, the person who can reject, the person who can give up, tyage naike, alone can attain or abide in the inner self that he already is, and which is the goal to be realized by everyone, by you, me. But we get lost because we are not very clear, we are not able to understand what is our position. When we come to a satsang or we give a talk like this, you are on a high. After so many years of talking, refinement in speech, refinement in thought construction, it's all automatically happening. Presentation, it's all happening. If you have been listening for many years, you also know what this teacher is saying, what that teacher is saying. You can complete the sentences. And those, for that 1.5 hour, you are continuously contemplating because you feel at one ment with yourself, with the support of the thoughts that are coming to you, or the thoughts that are coming within you, or the understanding that is taking place within you. It leads to a high. It's a drug effect. We have to reject that also. It will not allow you to abide. It will make you give more lectures. It will make you attend more satsang. Should we or should we not? We should continue, no doubt. Because if we were not exposed to this, what thought is coming today, we would not have been exposed to it. So, continuous refinement. So, when we are talking, see, Upanishads are not to be contemplated in the outside world, in a group discussion with someone else. No. These thoughts which you are hearing and I am talking, this is open eye contemplation. When you are with yourself on your seat of meditation, at that time, with a little bit of pranayam and little bit of japa, your mind has quietened down. and you want to go into samadhi. Go into samadhi, come back out. But samadhi is not the answer for realization. It is also another drug. Realization is possible only when you are awake. Samadhi, what you have done? You have made the mind niruddha, you have made the mind thought free, either by force or by pranayam or by catching the sandhis or by mantra. And when that happens, samadhi comes. So yes, it is good that you practice it. एक बार कर लिया काफी है. Then what do you do rest of the time? Don't pursue samadhi. You are escaping. It is also part of the creation. All that has happened is mind has become niruddha. It has become thought free. Knowledge cannot happen. Knowledge cannot take place in a thought free mind. If I don't speak anything right now, will understanding take place in you? Will you understand? Will you click into Zoom next class? So contemplation through the words to the principle, and that principle is my essence, that I am, and then as a result of that, realization, rejection of all thinking as a result of that. And you are not rejecting it consciously, it is dropping away by itself. It is dropping away by itself. If it has happened correctly, then when the mind again clicks in, the senses again open up, there is no duality. There is only I. Only the absolute expressing everywhere. Absolute alone, there is no everywhere also. Then only absolute is. This is the state of the Mahatmas. कुछ ज़्यादा बोल दिया. So, that knowledge of Brahman does not require itself to associate itself, to attach itself to any activity. It is self-sustaining, it's self-existing, it's self-knowing, it's self-illuminating. Nothing outside it. If you use the word, I'm just using the word outside. There is nothing outside Brahman. But when we use the words, when we use the mind, when we use the concept, when we use the ideas, when we use the imaginations, when we use the logic, when we use the karma, when you use tapa, dhamma, etc., it doesn't need all that in order to establish itself. It doesn't need it to establish itself. See? And in this manner, and if you think otherwise, such a thinking is mithya. It is not right. So now, here when he says tataha asad eva sukta vakanu mantranavat यथा योगम विभाग इति. Hmm. So I have already said all that, that all the suktas and the speech etc and the mantras, they are, and the tap etc. Uh, they are also divided depending upon the subject, the object, etc etc. Uh, all, thinking of multiplicity, thinking of many mantras, our attention is divided. Are you able? See, many people talk to us. Are we able to hold on to one mantra? Are we hold on to one guru? Are we hold on to one God? Are we able to contemplate on one God, on one mantra? Have we within ourselves as a seeker, within ourselves, have we adhered to a certain practice and we are incessantly with faith practicing that? Or with every satsang we change our practice? Or with every new guru whom we have made, he is my guru now, he is my guru, and with every guru you change your practice and change your mantra? Oh, once I used to enjoy being pray to Satyanarayan, but Satyanarayan did not do anything. Now I pray to Ram. But now lately Ram is also not delivering what I want, so now I've gone to Shiva. Are you one of those types? Shunting from God to God, mantra to mantra. Such people cannot come to realize. I have to hold on to one. Which one? The Atma Tattva. Mantras can be many, suktas can be many. Ganapati Atharva is there, Purusha Sukta is there, Shri Sukta is there, Medha Sukta is there, Devi Sukta, Bhu Sukta. So many suktas, so many mantras, so Rudram, yes, there is no end to it. But what is the underlying theme? Are we, when I chant Ganapati Atharva, oh Ganapati Bappa Moria, then Saraswati, Ya Devi. Then I chant Narayana Suktam, oh Narayan Bhagwan, Narayan Bhagwan. Kab tak we will commit this atrocity on ourselves? But this is the beautiful thing about Sanatan Dharma. Is our attention, in spite of the manyness, is our attention on that one who bring yourself to that point. Don't flow with the flow of the masses. Don't flow with the emotions. Commit. For that, self-discipline is required. See, in Karma Kanda, what is the process? You have to do Avahanam and Visarjanam. In yoga, you have to have Adhyatma and Vairagya. Abhyas and Vairagya, sorry. Abhyas and Vairagya. And in Jnana, what is required? Adhyarop Apavad. That is what is required in Jnana. So where are we? Is our day being accounted for? Is every minute of the day being accounted for? Are you aware 24 by 7, 365 days a year? Are you committed to your practices? You are committed to having breakfast at right time, lunch at right time, dinner at right time. You are committed to having a home heat temperature at a particular temperature. Little bit it goes less. Oh, where is the wind coming from? Why the heater is not working? We are committed to that. But are we committed to living a life of self-discipline wherein, and for self-discipline, very simple, are we living with awareness? Awareness of what? Awareness of the self. That is the ultimate. But to get there, here the 8th verse comes. To attain the knowledge, what are the practices? Now, when the student asked, please tell me the Upanishad, he has already come to know. We saw the different arguments in the 7th verse. So now, for those who are not abiding in the self as the self, those who are addicted to karma, those who are committed to putting efforts, doing something in order to attain, and that is only because they are not accepted, they are that which they are seeking. They are already that which they are seeking, the infinite one. So that this knowledge, meaning this Atma, this Parabrahma Paramatma, this Pratyag Atma is available. We come closer to it so that we are able to give up all our efforts, or all our efforts melt away in its presence. So to come in its presence, so to come to its threshold, so to open the door. Remember, no activity can deliver the Paramatma to you. Then what does activity do? If activity done with Nishkama Karma, it purifies. Purifies what? Purifies your mind, Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar. It purifies the Antakarana Chatushtaya. The fastest way to purify the Antakaran Chatushtaya is to contemplate on the inner self. But because of our addiction with names and forms, we are contemplating on a name and form. We are contemplating, oh, my body hai, pain is coming here, pain is coming there, it is cold, it is heat, it is hunger. कुछ न कुछ तो साधना करनी पड़ेगी. So then sadhana is required. Tasyai tapodam karmeti pratishtha veda sarvangani satyamayatanam. Tasyai tapodam karmeti pratishtha veda sarvangani satyamayatanam. He says, Tasyai, that knowledge of Brahman, what is that? Tapo dharma karma iti. Austerity is tapas, dhamma is restraint, and karma is activity. Then sarvangani, sarva angani. What is that sarvangani? Not the sarva anga is not our body. We are talking about the 4 Vedas and the 6 limbs, the Vedangas, Upavedas. uh, 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 they here it says क्या है वेदः सर्वांगानि सत्यम आयतनम. सत्यम आयतनम, these are the foundations for such for this knowledge of Brahman. And therefore, so austerity, tapa, dhamma, restraint, karma, rituals or activity, and such others, pranayam, blah blah, so many things are there. And also the Vedas and the Vedangas, the six limbs, they are the pedestal, they are the foundation, they are the feet, they are the stand on which the Brahman is standing, if we want to use that word, are the pedestals for the knowledge of Brahman. Truth is its abode. So, all without the truth, without the indivisible principle, without the unifying principle, without the Atma, nothing is possible. All these what we mentioned, austerity, tapa, dhamma, karma, Veda, Vedanga, etc. All this is not possible without the substratum, without the essence, without the true dharma. The true dharma of all these is that one. We take these to be dharma. We take the Upanishads and pray to them without taking in the knowledge. We take the statue, we take the temples, we take the scriptures, we take different things. And take them to be more important. But we forget what are they establishing. What is Krishna and Radha establishing? What is Ram and Sita establishing? What are Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh contemplating upon? When we talk about Ishwar and Prakriti, is there two or is there one, or they are expressions of the one? And that one, having expressed as two, has never stopped being the one. Are we understanding all this? Those two, the Shiva, the Ishvara and Prakriti, then became Hiranyagarbha, then Sutratma, then Virat Purusha, and then the expression of life through the total body. All this must become crystal clear. It must, you can study or we take the Vedas. Oh, I have got Vedas at home. And what do you do with the Vedas? Not one single word you understand. Because we are focused on the form. You are focused on the word Veda. It has got all the four Vedas inside. It is a good, if we have respect and reverence towards it, maybe one day we will open it and read it. See? Just like for 32 years of my life, I never read any scripture. Only sadhana, yoga, this, that, everything. But the respect, reverence, and the curiosity to know the truth, it was insatiable. Where I will get that knowledge, how will I get that knowledge, who will give me that knowledge, I had no idea. But I was working towards only one thing: purification, purification, purification. Samadhi used to happen now and then, but it was still unsatisfying, because after Samadhi the world is still there, the challenges are still there. So my goal was the bliss that is experienced in samadhi. How can that bliss be experienced, or one I can abide in that bliss 24 by 7? How do I take this entire to be one? I had no vision. Four times a day I used to sit regularly without missing. And when things happened, when the time was right, Lord decided. And suddenly Shankaracharya came, and the Vedanta Sar, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Panchadashi, the Yoga Sutras, the Bhagavatam. It was like standing under a divine waterfall and soaking in the divinity. It didn't sound foreign for me. Every lecture was as if, yeah, that's right. There's no doubt about it. See? There was nothing new to do. There was nothing to practice after that. It was only soaking in. Because every word of the teacher, Guru Maharaj, and every word of the scriptures was only taking you back to yourself. It was reminding the mind. And it was because the mind was prepared. It was not wet with emotion, wet with relation, wet with possession. It was dry. So when the words came and entered the mind, immediately the spark of understanding, the spark of abidance, the spark of a doubtless knowledge. It happened. So therefore, as long as we are seekers, we need to live a self-disciplined life. And here it says that this tapa, dhamma, karma, veda, vedanga, etc., they are the excuse me, they are the pedestal of that reality of the knowledge of Brahman. Continuing, ya mimam brahmim upanishadam ya mimam brahmim upanishadam tava agre abrumeti tasyai tasya uktaya upanishadah praptyupaya bhutani tapa adini. O student, in front of you, this Brahmi Upanishadam, this Upanishad of Brahma Vidya, which has been narrated to you, before coming to this Upanishad, the prerequisites. Before coming to the Upanishads, is think tasya uktaya upanishadah prapti upaya bhutani tapa adini. So before coming to the Upanishad, the prerequisites are austerity, restraint, and the karma, yajna, yaga, japa, etc. Tapah kayendriya manasa samadhanam. What is tapa? The tapa is, he says, sharira, kaya is sharira, Indriya, Indriya is the senses. Senses are how many? Six. Seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, tasting, and the mind. Six senses and the mind. Uh, okay, here he is just taking as the five senses Indriya, Manasam, and the mind. And that activity. What is tapa? Tapa is that which brings about uh, uh, the uh, the steadiness, samadhan, control, samadhan of the body, indriya, and mind. Meaning what samadhan? That if for 1.5 hour lecture, 100 times we change the position, 200 times we take a sip of water because I must hydrate myself, I must hydrate myself, oh I must hydrate myself. And you want Brahman, and you can't even sit for 1.5 hour without a sip of water. You can't sit even for one single moment. I don't know if you are sitting there checking your WhatsApp while you are listening to lecture. Why don't you put it off? You are in satsang, or when you are in meditation by yourself, or when you are doing japa by yourself, put it off. Is it that important? How will steadiness come? How will steadiness of our eyes, steadiness of our speech, steadiness of our mind, steadiness of our body? Otherwise, you're continuously rocking. Rock a baby, rock. So body is rocking, mind will also rock. It will keep going from one theme to the other theme, one idea to another idea, one imagination to another imagination, from one doubt to another doubt. It will never sit in steadiness. Tapas is wherein control, non-reaction, steadiness is brought about with regards to body, indriyas, and mind. And this is only possible when the indriyas, the senses, and the mind are focused on something higher, deeply, intensely, in a relaxed, cool manner. Intensity does not mean you have to bring your eyebrows together and get a headache afterwards. No. In a relaxed, cool way. Then what is Dhamma? Here it says Dhamma Upashamaha. What Dhamma is? Upashamaha. Dhamma means control of senses technically, but what is control of senses? That the senses are not attracted by the Vishaya. Senses are not attracted by Vishaya. Vishaya includes the wish, the poison. Vishaya is poison. And once you are hooked onto it, object can be a man, object can be a woman, object can be a child, object can be food, object can be experience of some country, some place, some time, some memory, a thought fixation. Dhamma, where the senses are enslaved by the objects. This umbilical cord has to be cut. We have to take our senses We have to come to such a disposition that in spite of the color and form, eyes are not swayed, are not enslaved. In spite of the sounds, conducive or non-conducive, the ears are not affected, hearing is not affected, you don't run after them or you don't run away from the sounds. And so with the other senses. So withdrawing from the world of objects, seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, tasting, restraining our senses. They are like the horses. If 5 horses are running in 5 different directions, the chariot of this body will not reach anywhere. It will not go anywhere. It cannot. It will topple over. So Arjuna gave the horses under whose control? The horses are kept under control by the reins. Reins is the mind. If the reins are too loose, the horses will run. If the reins are too tight, the horses will stop. And you don't want horses to, you don't want them to stand on their feet. Then the one who's in the chariot, he will fall off. But who can control such powerful 5 horses? And naturally, how many reins are coming to you? 10 reins are there. How do you control them? Can a weak person sit at the charioteer seat and control them? Whom have we given our reins of our mind? What are the convictions in whose hand we have given the reins of our mind? In other words, of the 5 horses called these 5 senses. Is it to the Lord? Is it to the Parabrahma Paramatma? Or is it to the child? Is it to the husband? Is it to the wife? Is it to the memories? And then complain, ये मन कभी कंट्रोल में नहीं आता. See, very, very important. And this is not a one-time job. This is alertness towards this. If you have not been alert about it, start from now. This is awareness. Yes, ultimately awareness is awareness of the self, but to get there you need these prerequisites. Only then you can understand the Upanishad. That's what the teacher is saying. That before you come to the Upanishad, these are the prerequisites. That you must have performed the tapas, you must have performed the dhamma, restraint of the senses, and manasam. And what is manasam? Manasam was the, where are we? Where are we यार? हाँ यहाँ पे थे ना. दम, उपशमः, karma, agnihotradi. And what is karma? Karma refers to activities of the yajna, invocation of fire, chanting the mantras, putting the ahuti, doing the purna ahuti, etc., etc., invoking the gods, Agni Devata, this Devata, that Devata, or whoever God, whichever God you are invoking. And here it says, एतैर्हि संस्कृतस्य सत्वशुद्धि द्वारा तत्वज्ञानोत्पत्तिः दृष्टा. By practicing all these what we just told, that is tapa, dhamma and karma, those people who are samskara yukta, those who are disciplined, those who are cultured, sanskrutasya, kritasya is cultured, of culture, people of culture, people of culture. सत्व शुद्धि द्वारा तत्व ज्ञान उत्पत्ति ही दृष्टा. By performing these three etc. Veda, Vedangas and Tapa, Dama and Karma, what they do? Chitta Shuddhi. They bring about purification of the mind. All activities are only for one purpose, and that is purification. They are not for realization, they are for purification. Self is self-realized. No tapa is able to realize the self. No dhamma is able to realize the self. The ego, the doer, the practitioner, the seeker, the contemplator, the listener, the reflector, the contemplator, in other words, the Shravanar, Mananar, Nididhyasanar, has to be dissolved in order for self to reveal. Because we think in that manner, that we have to reach somewhere. He is ever revealing. We only don't know. Because we have taken ourselves to be with reference to the body, with reference to the mind. I am the intellect, I am the senses. Now when you have taken that, then you need to bring them under the control so that they don't break you up into multiple personalities. They don't take you into different directions and create an accident everywhere they go. See? So in this manner, it brings about chitta shuddhi, sattva shuddhi dwara. Then what is observed? Drashta. Tattva jnana utpatti hi drashta. It is seen that when mind is completely purified, tattva jnana reveals. See, tattva jnana reveals. Drashta hi अमृदित कल्मषस्योक्तेपि ब्रह्मण्य प्रतिपत्तिः विपरीत प्रतिपत्तिश्च यथेन्द्र विरोचन प्रभृतीनाम्. Of those people, drashta hi mritida kalmashasya yoktepi kalmashasya uktepi, of those people whose mind has not withdrawn from the sensory objects, imaginations, convictions, ideas, memories, meaning all the external world, it has not withdrawn. It is not withdrawn is withdrawn only. Nivritta, withdrawn. To such people, so which category do we come under? Are we coming under this category that our disposition is still considering the world to be real? We are still lost in our children, in our grandchildren, in our wife, in our husband, in our brothers, sisters, parents, in our own body. So here the point is being made that it is seen, drashta, it is seen that when this knowledge of the Upanishad is given to such people whose mind has not completely got withdrawn from the sensory objects, that even after giving them this knowledge, they still continue to choose to be involved in the world. This is what is observed, drashta. So you take it that even after the mind has heard this knowledge, this Brahma Vidya given in the Keno Upanishad, what is your observation? That it is still, after the class you will find out whether it is withdrawn or it is still involved, or you already know it, that it is still over the moon with regards to the world, with regards to the relation, with regards to the possessions, with regards to health, corona, body, memories, etc. But it's a full feel good moment, Every satsang is a feel good moment. It's a good party talk. It's a good advertising. I attend satsang everywhere, every day. If you are not that type, if you are observing your mind, if you are aware and you are observing that even after such a deep contemplation on the Upanishad, all the facts are laid in front of you where the mind gets caught, and it is still going back into the world, default setting. And this is seen, here it says, Yathendra Virochana Prabhrutinam. The example is given. This is seen in the example of Indra and Virochana. We'll look at that in our next class, Indra Virochan story. I think I told you somewhere before, but I don't know if it was this class or some other class, but we'll take it from there. Virochan, even after listening to this knowledge, he said, hey, I'm not going to practice this. It's too much. I can't enjoy this life also, and there's nothing to achieve also. And Indra, even after coming to know he continued practicing, and therefore he got the Indra position. Otherwise, Virochan would have become the Indra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Sit quietly for a moment.